All right, so we are here with Bob Betz from Betz Family Winery at the September release party for 2011. Hey Bob, for those that aren't familiar with your story and the winery here, can you give us a little bit of a rundown, maybe real quickly, about
Sure.
about the whole thing?
This is the labor of my loves, or the loves of my labors for the last 35 years. My 36th vintage in Washington. So much of that, of course, is with the San Michel Abrupt for 28 years. But we've been making Betz Family wine for 15 years now. This is our 15th harvest. And we make reds. Whites are great, we drink whites, but ultimately for me, all wine would be red if it could. So we focus on Bordeaux varieties, Cabernet and Merlot-based wine, and then 3 Syrahs, each from its own individual site, and a Grenache, with an occasional extra wine from it.
Yeah. Well, you're one of the few winemakers in the state too that hold a Master of Wine, right?
The only one in America who makes wine commercially.
Oh, okay.
The only MW was David Lake, of course, who used to make the wine in
Right.
Colombia, was also a fellow master of wine.
Right.
He is no longer with us, unfortunately. He passed away a few years ago, and a great builder and contributor to what Washington is all about.
Oh, absolutely.
In fact, the wine that you and I are enjoying, this is called our Syrah La Côte Patriarche. And what it means is the founder's slope. And David Lake from Colombia was instrumental, along with Mike Sauer, the vineyard owner, in planting the very first Syrah grapes in Washington.
Wow.
This wine is 100% from that vineyard, and we named it in honor of David Lake, winemaker in Colombia, and Mike Sauer, the vineyard owner at Red Willow, who had the vision to plant Syrah in Washington. So I raise my glass.
Salute.
Salute, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, to David and Mike.
So you've been at it 15 years. You've developed obviously a very strong, loyal cult following, if you will. It seems to, as of the last 5 years or so, that's every small winery's dream, is to kind of build up this cult following, sell everything direct, if you can, obviously. And if you were to ever express any pearls of wisdom from your experiences to those type of wineries that are aspiring to become that, what would you say to them?
A couple of key things. Number one, don't skimp on quality. It's the only long-term, I don't want to call it advantage, but only long-term advantage, let me just say it, that you can possibly do. And that takes its form of vineyards. Work with the very best vineyards you can work with great growers who are smart, who have a high work ethic, and then pray that you don't mess up their work in the cellar. Okay, so work as very hard as you can on the best grapes you can get, and then pay attention to detail in the cellar. And that's those. Once you do that, just don't get too big for your britches. Don't overprice your wines. Don't make so much wine that you've got to just give it away, and just focus on quality issues in the vineyard and the cellar.
Well, I think to your credit, you haven't really got caught up too much in the ratings game. You know how some wineries they'll have like a wine that's out for a while, and all of a sudden it gets a really high score, above 95 or whatever, and then they instantly just ratchet up the price accordingly. And you don't seem to have ever really been caught up into that whole game. And I think that's to your benefit.
It's a really conscious decision on my life and my part, and that is wine is a love, and it's not some iconic thing in your life. For us, it's part of our daily life. And I think our wines are priced probably below where they compete, especially if you consider what's going on in California and particular scores and all that stuff, and the acclaim that they get. But, I want people to enjoy our wine. I want Betz Family Winery wines to be gotta-haves. I gotta have those wines that are great enough that I want to drink them, and they're inexpensive enough that I can drink them. And that's pretty important to me. I don't want people to say, gee, they've just priced themselves out of my market, I can't do it. So that's a real conscious decision on our part.
Absolutely. Well, earlier this year you announced the sale of your winery to some new owners out of South Africa. Tell us a little bit about that for the people that haven't really been keeping up with the news and all that.
Sure. I'm getting old, okay?
Well, come on now, you're not that old.
63, and and been at it 36 years now, and I realized that because of some personal issues, the family, and just time that we have really dedicated ourselves 15 years to Betz Family and the past 35 to the industry, while I'll still be very strongly involved. It was time to look at succession planning, and our two daughters, one of whom works for the winery and the other one lives in California. I don't think it was ever in the cards that they would take the winery over. Carmen, our daughter who works for us,
Right.
loves the winery, has been with us 7 years. She'll continue even after the sale is done and all that. She will continue on, but she's not going to want to run the winery, okay? And so we looked at what our options were, and the option was we needed to have a plan to sell the winery. So we were hunted actually by a number of wineries in California, a couple of major Napa Valley names.
Oh, I'm sure.
That were in the hunt and very much in the bidding for Betz. I mean, what we were fortunate enough to do is find a couple, a la Bob and Kathy, who wanted to make this their life. And Steve and Bridget Priestel had become our partners and the buyers of the winery, and they will continue to manage the day-to-day operations, allowing the time to focus on vineyards and cellar as they take over
The business side of it.
and integrating themselves fully into the entire operation of the winery. They've got, I'm contractually here for another 5 years.
But they told me tonight you're never going to leave. That's what Bridget said. They said we won't be able to get rid of him, you know.
Great.
And they actually love that. They love that actually. She said that in a very complimentary kind of way.
You know, and to the extent that we can continue to contribute, I want to be part of this industry until I'm gone. I already
It's in your DNA, Bob.
I know, and I took on the chairmanship of next year's auction of Washington wines already, and so I want to give back something to the community that has been so important to us.
Yeah. So where do you see Betz Family Winery going over the next 20, 30 years, maybe even after you're long and gone?
Long gone. I hope it continues to be a gotta-have in Washington, but as Washington matures, I hope it's a gotta-have in American wine culture. What we see today versus what I saw 35 years ago from Washington, it's a chasm. You've heard the story that I've told where in 1978 I was in Orlando, Florida, talking about Washington wines, tasting Washington wines, slides of Washington wineries, and somebody asked which side of the Potomac River we grew our Washington grapes on.
Yeah, we've come a little way since then.
Okay, we have leaped light years ahead, and I think because of what we're doing in the vineyards, the wine we're making in the cellar, the research program that's being sponsored by WSU, the leadership position of the major wineries like Chateau Ste. Michelle in getting our brands into domestic and foreign markets. Washington's future is upward, and I hope Betz Family continues to play a key role in that and is a gotta-have for wine lovers, even outside our limited borders right here.